Welcome everyone. This is Paul Foster here from Skyland Recruitment and the Digitech Founders series. This is really our chance to shine a spotlight on people that are really doing well in their certain niche. And today I'm really happy to have somebody that's spent the last 5 years growing a VR and an AR tech company, a red hot tech company that's grown really well in London. And I'd really like to introduce Linda Wade, who's had 5 years within Spinview, but has also worked for some other tech giants, including Microsoft. So welcome, Linda. How are you doing today?
Hi, fine, thank you. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Linda, one of the things that really, I'm always interested in new technology. AR and VR is always up there with curiosity. Now, for our viewers' benefit, I'd really just like to focus or get you to explain a little bit about your platform and what it does, just so we can learn a little bit about some of the features or benefits that you guys can perform.
Yeah, sure. So at Spinview, our whole essence was around protection. And by that, what we look at is the relationship between people and the spaces that they work, they live, and they behave in. And when we can recreate visualizations of people's space and then put them inside that space, you can measure their behavior, you can see how they feel, you can optimize what is going on, and it can help your business perform in a way that really wasn't possible before. You can onboard your staff, you can help enable your sales, you can train people, you can communicate in a way that really wasn't possible before. And so we can see how the assets and the world around people helps determine what they're doing in the future. And every single thing you do when you do it virtually carries a response, it carries data. And when we look at that data, we get insights. And so not only can it help you communicate in a way visually, which is the way that we were born and spatial human beings, but you can get data from that which can inform all of your business decisions. And so it's an incredibly powerful tool set. And at Spinview, we've created a platform that enables you to use and to harness this, this information sharing, this information gathering in a really simple, easy to use format. Drag and drop, no words, we don't really use AR or VR as words. They're just tools in order for you to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And in doing that, everybody in the organization is empowered, not just the tech departments. And so our platform enables all these tools and enables all your employees, but without all of that really hard, I've got to do some coding. That doesn't exist with us.
Right, perfect. So one of the, when I was reading through and understanding about the platform, there was 2 points that really captured my attention. One was the fact that you guys can help companies on board. So I was thinking about the viewers of this series, and a lot of them are like yourself, they're leaders of businesses. So to be able to onboard and also to train is huge, I think, right now, especially right now. But can you tell us a little bit about how the technology helps to onboard new staff and then subsequently help train them up?
Yeah, of course. So we start with, everything that we do starts with a visualization of your real world environment. If it doesn't yet exist, we can create one, but you start with the visualization. Following that, we then allow you to meet inside that environment virtually as if you were really present.
Okay.
And so to do this, for example, we have a big communications giant that is a multinational organization, and they have a factory in Tallinn, and they have their teams and their head office in the United States, and they need to onboard their employees. And historically, they used to put their employees on a plane, fly them over. It was a week's trip. They used to go around the area, around the factory, learn the experience, and then it was back. The cost was hundreds of thousands every month. And it was also limited then as to how many people could physically go into the factory at any one time. Now they run an international program. They have recorded different sections of the factory depending on the different requirements of the role. They have got one master tour of the whole factory, and then they use different sections of it, one for the management team, one for actually onboarding the staff, one for the marketing and those types of teams, so that they can see the things that are relevant for them. It's still customizable, but they can meet and they don't leave the United States. And so now they get these personalized tours around the factory. They get to experience it, but they're able to do it in a couple of hours rather than, you know, a week out the office. They're sustainable, it's saving money, and, you know, it's really impacted on their bottom line. They've got really good engagement from it.
Brilliant. So
you know, other things.
Sorry, I was just going to interrupt. Sorry, I was just going to say, because it's so innovative, the people that are actually doing the actual onboarding, so the talent themselves, one would assume they're going to retain a lot more information purely because it is innovative and it is something brand new. So yeah, they can then take that information and it stays with them rather than go to, let's say, a classroom or workshop, have the information and lose that information over the next coming weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things they found is when you experience training or visual experience through virtual reality, you can actually, because you're heavily engaged, you're less sidetracked than you maybe even are in a physical presence. You're not going to pick your phone up. You're not going to start typing on your computer. You know, you can't, because you've got a headset on. So you're actually really present in the environment that you're in. And they've found that retention rates in VR can be as much as 25-30% more than physical presence, let alone if you've then got like a Skype or classroom type learning experience where the numbers can become much greater. And if you've got an experience where you're actually doing something as well, where you're actually pointing things out and asking and discussing specific items, that retention rate increases even further to 30+%. So, you know, return on investment wise, not only are they more engaged, you know, it's saved you money, your retention rates, everything are much higher.
So looking at the possibilities, because I completely get it. I've got a client who's in the medical devices sector, medical technologies, and they have lots of problems where they have to go into, say, for example, hospital theatres to train and to develop. But right now, with the current COVID situation, that's going to be difficult. So could this technology actually help them with regards to training up on devices, or certainly understanding the environment of what's safe and what's not?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, you know, the training and the onboarding can work anywhere. We can create a virtual environment, and then through our system, you can actually overlay information into that relevant for the different types of stuff. So, for example, there's a hospital very near where I live that we're in talks with those guys. They've got theatre setups, and using one theatre and one camera system, everybody then has access to the theatre. You know, in terms of the number of hours that you can do as a trainee, those have reduced underneath the current setup with COVID restrictions, but also in terms of just the EU health restrictions. And so now you can get more operating hours, because a physical operation will take 6 to 8 hours, maybe longer, maybe less. Whereas actually the surgery itself is only 1 hour out of that whole process. So you can actually go and experience and see more surgeries. You can see surgeries that maybe you haven't seen before or aren't on the roster for the next period of time. The staff then that are also in the theatres can get access remotely and be trained without going on site. Where are the cleaning materials? What needs doing when? After different types of surgeries, there are different types of sanitizations that are required. In this new post-COVID world, the whole cleaning regimes have changed. And so you can change the information that goes onto those environments, but without actually reshooting them. And so you can keep them up to date, you can retrain your staff. And not only that, they have everything in their pocket. And so after they've had the training, if they've forgotten anything, you've then got a virtual tour of the environments where you've got reminders for everything in your pocket on your phone.
So
it's brilliant.
As a business then, so I say that you're AR and VR, but actually it lends itself to education, technology, ed tech. It lends itself to so many different verticals and sectors you could work in. It's on and on, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the technology itself is fairly agnostic. It can apply to pretty much any industry. We sort of use this as a visual communications tool that you can get data and insights from. And, you know, in this world now today, data and insights are really hard to use. This helps make everything simple, easy to understand. You know, it makes training easy. It means you don't have to travel. You've got sustainability in there. We can reduce carbon emissions. You know, this power of this technology can really transform the way that we operate. Now, it doesn't remove physical presence. It just means that you can, when you are physically present, you're more prepared, you've got more information, you've got more understanding, and you actually have less time that you actually need to be physically present. But it means that when you are, you're more informed and it's safer. You know, for example, doing things in virtual reality means that you could actually train people on cracks inside pipes, for example. But you can't go down and put your head inside a pipe, but you can put a camera in, and actually you can then both go and meet, or your whole team can go and meet and look at the damage that's been done. And then when you go on site, you know what you're doing before you even get there. And so actually we've worked in rail infrastructure in particular, where they've got a lot of the railways going with pipe networks underneath, and they can examine through underneath the pipes without actually having to send staff out. And they're going with the right equipment, the right tools, the right machinery, in the right space at the right time, because they've prepared, and they've been able to prepare because they've been able to see and meet virtually as a team, and they all know what they're doing. So time on site is also reduced. So it's not just about the preparation, it's actually the impact that has when you are actually physically present as well.
Implementing. So the technology has no boundaries, which is great. But as a leader, as a CEO of a technology company, we've got to talk about COVID. How has that impacted on you as a leader in terms of strategy, perhaps in terms of challenge or opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as with most, the initial first couple of months post the announcements of COVID and the lockdowns and things, you know, we all experienced challenge. You know, it was, in the first instance, it was everybody went into shutdown. There was all the decisions, all the new business opportunities that there were all paused. You know, the growth sort of literally fell off a cliff and closed overnight. And you were dealing with your own staff anxiety and, you know, their own family concerns and things. But in this industry, we were prepared already. We already remote work. So we already had a VR system that we could communicate and meet virtually as a team, and we continue to do so. So you get a feeling of physical presence. Within our system and on our board, we actually have a neuroscientist who helps make sure that the work that we do is easy for people to understand at a basic level and all levels,
right?
Because it's designed for how the brain works. And she actually created us a couple of years ago a meditation type program. So we go into virtual spaces and we can have some mental well-being as well and look after the whole beings. And then it's something that we offer to all of our staff. And so they were able to use that and go to a beach and to meet on a beach instead. And actually we've had quite a few team meetings on the beach instead of in the office. And actually that on its own can just be a wonderful experience and change people's mindsets from where they are every day inside their house every day. And all of a sudden their horizon has changed, and it gives you a feeling of well-being that you just couldn't get before. So, you know, it was great for being in that space, and having that as an opportunity was fantastic.
So does that mean that the team's more creative because they're on a beach in Honolulu?
I guess sometimes maybe. I think the main thing is it can just, they don't feel quite as hemmed in. They're not quite, you know, in this COVID, when you've been in your house for 3 months, it can give you itchy feet. You know, you really want to have the presence of people and see people, but you want to change your viewpoint. And that ability to change the viewpoint and visit different environments and have meetings in different places makes you have a slight feeling that you are actually doing that and that you are actually leaving your premises.
Brilliant.
And, you know, not only that, you know, for us, it's also changed the way that people's acceptance to this technology as well. You know, before people were a little bit afraid of it, and therefore it became a nice to have. And, you know, it's not a line item on most people's P&L. Whereas now, you know, they're not going to physical events. They're, you know, they can't, their travel budget has been slashed. So all of a sudden companies have these budget items that they can redirect the money to, and how better to do it than to still offer their customers those services, but in a virtual way. And so they can still take people to their showrooms. They can still take people to their factories or their manufacturing plants. They can still meet people and discuss and showcase them at events, but they don't have to travel there. And if they do travel, they can provide this really great support network, because even then there's still going to be a reduced number of people there. Right. So they've been able to hold virtual meetings and things. And all of a sudden now that is a really big opportunity. That level of understanding and embracing of that new technology has, you know, we've had a plus and a negative for the COVID.
I think in terms of opportunity, you hit the nail on the head where you say It might not have been in people's P&L or their budget, but now actually, yes. For example, I think the way we are all working, for example, I'm at home, you're at home, the way we all work, even the way we connect, where if I was to have, let's say, a Zoom call with a client, whether a new or an old client, I would be listening out for making sure my son's not screaming or the dog's not barking because the postman's been, or my wife shouting. I'm like, oh. But now there's more. I think there's more of a human connection, because we actually realised, we're all human. We're all under the same environment, and these things happen. It's a little bit like clients now realise, actually, we've got to be prepared to use this technology, because obviously the amount of benefits it will bring our businesses.
Yeah, 100%. And when you can't actually do anything, your business has still got to go on.
Yeah.
You've still got targets to achieve. You've still got shareholders to respond to. And even if you don't have shareholders, you've still got people to pay and wages to pay. And, there is specific turnovers and requirements that you've got. And how do you do that when you can't bring on new team members? Or if you do bring them on, you can't meet them, you can't communicate with them. And Skype and everything is great, but it's still quite flat and it's still quite two-dimensional. And even though you meet as an avatar, your avatar can look like you, but it's three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And we've been brought up as, we are three-dimensional people. We see spatially. And when you get that depth perception, you actually get a feeling of connection and presence. And even though it's not real, it's the closest you can get to a real world connection.
Absolutely. So for you then, I mean, we talked a little bit earlier before we press record, but we talked about mentors, being mentored, or having some, as a CEO, as a leader of a business, we all still need some form of mentorship. Talk me through your experience with either being a mentor or having some form of mentor platform, a place where you can go, because let's face it, no matter what level of business we're at, we always can learn from each other. Talk me through your experience with either having a mentor or having mentorship.
Yeah, so as you mentioned at the start of the call, I'm ex-Microsoft, and at Microsoft, mentorships and the mentor program is a really important part of your growth and the way that you work through the organization. And it's normally somebody within the organization, a few tiers above you, to help you with your growth, to help make sure that that you can answer questions and actually navigate some of the politics that are in a much larger organization.
Nice to have.
And you in turn, and you in turn would be a mentor for other people inside the organization. And that's, just having a friend, having somebody that you could meet just to discuss issues and problems and things in a neutral territory was, is really great and really beneficial. But sort of at the sort of CEO level now, where you're running a business, and, one of the things I'd mentioned earlier was that it can be quite lonely. It's, there's nobody else now to go up with. And I can implement a mentor program down and through the team, but then I've got all the decisions and everything sitting here. And so actually, I've got my chairman and I've got shareholders, but, sometimes there are issues that you want to discuss that you don't necessarily want to broach in that much detail, or you'd like to align your own thoughts around before you take it to them. Excuse me. And so I belong to a peer advisory group, and that has been game changing. I've been involved with that for about the last year, 18 months. And we meet either once a month, or during COVID, we've actually been doing shorter days instead of a full day. And we've been doing a half day session every other week. And it's great to just meet and to run through what's going well, what's not going well, what any issues are. And it's kind of the board you could never afford. And just having those peers that you can just talk very openly to. It's the same group all the time. It's your 5 or 6 key people. You can share things and get advice and get inputs because they're at the same level as you as well, and they're experiencing some of those same concerns. So I would say that peer advisory, particularly for other CEO levels or other smaller businesses, is fantastic and is invaluable.
Brilliant. So for you then, where do you see the business Spinview going in the future? If you was to look at 2023, so 3 years from now, how do you visualize the business in terms of its size, its growth? What's the plan for you guys?
Yeah, so I think no doubt for us, COVID has shift changed the understanding of the need for technology, and there is much less description required now. The last 3 months alone have probably gained us 3 years, just in terms of the whole industry.
Yeah.
So I think the growth is going to become faster than anybody would have necessarily planned or forecast for originally.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen Google Glass in the past, which was the glasses that you could put on and it would overlay information in the world around you. It was too soon.
There was a lot of hope for that, wasn't there? Yeah.
There was. It just, the market wasn't ready, but the product is still very good. But you know, we've got Apple due with their product before 2023, and that on its own, as with most things, when they launched the iPhone and you know, they launched their other services, they were the right point at the right time in the market. And they've waited, and the market is now ready. And so between that time, you will start to see that, and then you'll get mass market acceptance. And it will gradually move us over that chasm where at the moment, it's still only really early adopters really looking at this technology. COVID has meant that all of a sudden, we've got a bigger share of market looking at these opportunities. And not only that, recognizing that there is actually space for this. You know, people don't want to travel as much anymore. You know, they also want to be more sustainable. They want to look after the environment. And actually, if you can balance the need for international travel or the need for local travel and save money, save costs, save time, save effort, and actually get better results at the end of it, then there is going to become a much better balance. And you know, this technology will form side by side with those physical real world environment presences, but it can really supplement those, really support those, and it can just change communications. So we really see that this will become the norm for most businesses. And that information sharing, that ease of communication, and the speed of communication, you know, when I can see what you can see, I can understand it in a way that was never really possible before. So the chances of misunderstandings in organizations or between you and your customers just start to go away. The chance of you converting your sales because you can start to see things that I can see, also it starts to move and it starts to disappear. And so that communication, that change in communication is the next phase. You know, it's coming along with 5G, it'll be more accessible on more devices. The level of the devices are all changing, and I think you would gradually start to see it becoming more and more normal in every office, and also starting to be more normal at home as well.
So Spinview is well primed for the future. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to what's going to come out of Spinview and watch its growth. Super excited to see the developments that go on with yourself there, Linda. I wanted to thank you for coming on the show, and perhaps we can circle back in 18 months, see what the growth has been, and hopefully we're in a completely different and better world then. But until then, good luck with the future, and we look forward to having you on the show again soon.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, and Linda.
Thank you.